like I hate Snapchat, but at the time I kind of used Snapchat to kind of vent and kind of tell people what's on my mind. And when I say people, it wasn't like a public account, it was just like family and friends. I used to share just some random thoughts I had, some random questions. Like I kind of just wanted to start a conversation regarding something that I've been thinking about lately. And so with that came the idea, like, I want this to be something permanent, not something just for 24 hours. I want to kind of share these conversations, these side conversations I've been having with people since I've shared kind of my thoughts or initial questions. And so I think that really encouraged me to kind of have it some sort of permanent thing. But it took me, like, the idea came in like December 2018, and I put my first episode out on August 2019. So
oh, it's another day, another episode live coming out.
Yeah.
Amazing
episode on the 273 of A to the Show. Wow.
273 daily uploads. And you know what makes today special?
Traveling around the world.
Not just that, we're joined by Miss Basma Hamdan. Welcome to the show. And we're joined by the wise guy, owner himself, right? Saeed Jamal. So thank you for guys for coming on today's episode. Basma, let the world know who you are and what you do.
Okay, so hi, my name is Basma, like Ali introduced, one of the Alis, that's gonna be confusing. But yeah, basically I have a podcast called كلام فاضي. It basically aims to kind of start the conversations on like self-development, but not from like experienced people, not from people who have already gone through like life experiences, but like young people who are still going through the experiences they're talking about. And so creating the podcast, I really wanted people to feel like they're listening to their friends talking and not like this ex-professional who's been talking about this for years or is like over the age of 40. So that's basically like what I
want to say, I really like your podcast. I've listened to a couple episodes and it's because like, it is like young people, like just you're expressing your thoughts and you're not sure of everything. Usually like these life gurus, they're older and they have this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do.
It's not just that. They like to like super implement these difficult high vocabulary words, whereas you're just like plain and simple.
I know.
It is what it is, right?
Bro, what I hate about them is like when they use those anecdotes that make no sense, you know, it's like, and it's like, you know, just follow that path. Like, no, but then your friend comes and explains it. He's like, yeah, I can relate to that. That's like, that sounds exactly like my situation.
Yeah, and then you want to know what's funny when you go like, okay, so explain how you relate to that. They go like, they don't know what they're talking about, right? So here's my first question for you. Why is it that nowadays everyone who wants to start a podcast like to go through that direction of don't look at me as a professional, but look at me as your friend who's talking to you? How come?
I think people don't want to be held accountable. That's basically it. Because if you say
I was thinking of the same thing.
Yeah, because it's true. I mean, when you say you're not a professional, you can just say whatever you want subjectively and nobody cares, because at least you're saying like, this is my opinion, you don't have to take it.
Fair.
The moment you say you are a professional, people can like comment and say no, like you don't know what you're talking about, blah blah blah.
No, that's very true, because even our podcast,
you can just say disclaimer, I'm not a professional. That's it.
We don't even do that. We're like, it's very obvious from the start, we're not pros at anything in Ali, right? Like it's just very obvious. But that's the point of our podcast, is it's like you view each different topics from our eyes, two regular 20-year-old guys, you know, who are halfway across the world. But with you, it's like extra special because a Saudi girl, right? Like everyone around the world won't really understand this as much as we will, but like a Saudi woman who's sharing her thoughts, which is something, whoa, right? Especially in our parts of the world. So
I feel like nowadays, especially with like Snapchat, I hate Snapchat by the way, but I mean, a lot of people on Snapchat share, like women especially, they find Snapchat as a very comfortable platform to kind of speak their minds. What's scary is the moment that thing is for the public it's not just for 24 hours, it's just there for people to listen whenever they want. And so, for example, I look at some of the episodes, and by the way, I never listen to my podcast episodes after they're uploaded.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to.
Confidence,
but
yes.
What's done is done. I've listened to, yeah, exactly. But I think I've listened to my first episode after a year after it came back, and that came out, I mean. And then I find myself kind of like not agreeing with everything I say anymore, which is interesting because you get to see like how you thought of things and how you saw things, and how like within just a year things have changed. So it's kind of fun, but also it kind of like it's
you see yourself develop. You see your own self-development, if anything. So you were talking about how you talk about self-development, and then you have your own development going over the span of the podcast. Yeah, exactly. You grow, especially from the topics that you talk about and what you learn.
I hate watching our first episode. Ali knows this best. I really don't like watching our first episode because it was bad. It was bad. Like our every quality audio, video,
every aspect,
every aspect of the episode was just terrible. I was bald. I had no hair at the time, right? I was just I cringed. But the only reason I do watch it from time to time is just to remind myself how far I've come, even as a person who has nothing to do with filming or shooting videos and things like that, like how far I've actually come, even in the confidence I had from the start to now, right? Talking to new people every single day. So how has your confidence increased from the very first episode of Kalam, Fاضي till today's episode on A to the Show? How has your confidence increased?
Drastically. I think it had to do with the podcast, yes, but the moment I started the podcast, a lot of things have kind of changed in my life that weren't necessarily like opportunities that came from the podcast, but it just made me kind of, I don't know if this makes sense, but this is coming from a person who used to have like social anxiety a few years ago. And so sometimes when I still have those thoughts, like social anxiety thoughts, I'm like, oh, I'm not this person anymore. And because of the podcast, people, like, I don't see myself as a socially anxious person, and people don't see me as a socially anxious person. So this kind of, I don't know, it kind of pushes me to do things that I wouldn't do otherwise, because I'm kind of building this like personality for like myself and for others to kind of like see and experiment and stuff like that. So I guess that kind of pushes me to like be more courageous, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, you're putting yourself out of your comfort zone, if anything.
Yes.
And I feel like that's where people like really learn new stuff, especially since, so for example, as you're a kid growing up, you're always put in this bubble where your parents are, trying to keep you safe and always like, don't do this, don't do that, you might get hurt or anything. But then as you grow up, you want to, explore, discover, especially at our age. And putting yourself out of your comfort zone is basically what teaches you a lot in life, from my perspective. So yeah.
So how did you get started even doing your podcast? So you said you were more shy and reserved. So how did you even start with a podcast?
Okay, so basically it kind of started with the idea that I said I hate Snapchat, but at the time I kind of used Snapchat to kind of vent and kind of tell people what's on my mind. And when I say people, it wasn't like a public account, it was just like family and friends. I used to share just some random thoughts I had, some random questions. I kind of just wanted to start a conversation regarding something that I've been thinking about lately. And so with that came the idea, like, I want this to be something permanent, not something just for 24 hours. I want to kind of share these conversations, these side conversations I've been having with people since I've shared kind of my thoughts or initial questions. And so I think that really encouraged me to kind of have it some sort of permanent thing. But it took me, like, the idea came in like December 2018, and I put my first episode out on August 2019. So it was like 6 months or like 7 months of me just kind of trying to figure things out, and not necessarily trying to figure things out because I didn't like buy any equipment. I just used my phone and like my laptop and whatever I had in hand. But it was just mostly me being scared of publishing my first episode.
Wow.
Which, by the way, it's a very common thing here, especially in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, these like Gulf countries where people like to share their opinions on Snapchat. I don't know why they do it. I still don't know why they do it, but they do, and it's true. That's how some of these people became like very famous now. Like, you have these, we call them fashionistas, right? They're very Like I hate using that word, but it's the word we use.
I
So it's the
know.
word you know what I mean? I don't like it too, but what are we gonna do, right? But it's true. Like that's
Everyone is a
how.
fashionista.
No, my God,
Mhm.
dude, don't even get me started. And the thing is, they
Like
all
a
come from
vlogger.
our neck of the woods,
Right.
so it's like. Whatever.
I
So,
know.
speaking of podcasting, I feel like your thoughts are pretty much on point, right? But do you like how much preparation goes into each topic, or is it just a spur of the moment kind of thing? Like, oh, I want to talk about this today. Like, how do you go through that?
Okay. So obviously the initial idea comes where basically the inspiration either comes from I'm a big fan of YouTube, so I watch a lot of YouTube videos. So like the inspiration either comes from that. It sometimes mostly comes nowadays from conversations I have with people. And so that's kind of the basis of the idea. And then I try to kind of organize the idea with like one sentence or one word that kind of describes what I'm trying to like talk about on the episode. And then I basically like I now have like a person that helps me with like writing the main points, I guess, of what we want to talk about, just to kind of make the conversation smoother, like make it make sense, have like a good flow, I guess. Other than that, like I don't prepare what I want to say. I really like to like to keep it very spontaneous, very like based on what I'm feeling now and what I'm thinking now. And even for the most part, I don't like to share what I like the main points or like the bullet points with my guests because I like it to be spontaneous.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So you keep it very original. Like it might. How do I say this? Because we kind of do the same thing where we don't really have anything or any set amount of questions. We just ask what we genuinely want to know, right? It's because we genuinely want to know. But do you never have like this fear that you might go off on a tangent or divert from the main topic at hand, or
No, I don't fear that. Not necessarily because well, obviously I record the episode, like me and my guest, and then so most of the recordings are like 1 hour, 1.5 hours long, and then I kind of just crunch it to 20 minutes. Usually because we do get out of topic, and I don't mind it at all, because when recording an episode, I'm not thinking like this is going to be a podcast episode. I'm thinking this is a conversation I'm having with another human being. What would I like to learn about that person or about myself, for like in another case. So I really try, like, even if we get out of topic, even if we just don't make sense, even if we're like it seems like we're going into a completely different topic, it's fine, because I know like I can always obviously edit it out, but also like I kind of like having the conversation during the time, so I don't really mind, even if it takes me longer to edit, because it's like 1.5 hours to 20 minutes.
Interesting. So we don't edit a lot of our video. We like to keep the whole thing on, right? But it's because it gets hard to choose like what stays on, what stays off. Even sometimes when we go off on a tangent, like it's such a good tangent, you know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Sometimes the tangents are better than the main topic, honestly.
Yeah,
right?
like it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
Just like on the Wise Guys.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's where it mostly happens. True. But so
By the way, Basma, I wanted to ask. Okay, sorry, Ali.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, how do you know what to remove and what not to remove? And was there ever a time where you had to make the hard choices of, I want it but I can't put it? Oh, that's
yes. There were some choices. There were some like conversations during like specific topics. For example, one of the best or like highest listened to episodes is called Ana Gharib al-Adwar, which is basically like I'm a weirdo. And that episode, I remember a part of the conversation was really interesting, and like my guest was quoting something really good, but it was so out of topic that I just had to take it out, because it was so good but it didn't make sense within the episode. So I just had to take it out. Usually, sometimes it's very difficult with episodes, because especially if I'm in love with the whole conversation and it flows really beautifully, it makes it hard to kind of choose what to keep and what to remove. But what I try to remember constantly is like, what is the main topic? What do I want people to kind of get from this episode? And based on that, like I make the decisions from what stays and what goes.
Oh.
Usually, what's the main topic that you like to talk about, or what's your like favorite genre of topic that you go around?
anything that's extremely subjective, I would say. So I'm not held accountable.
So can you give us an example of what's something that you did talk about maybe and you enjoyed it?
I don't know. Okay, so just right off like the top of my head, I think one episode that just came to mind, and obviously every episode I obviously like or love, but this episode I think really showed two different sides of me. And so it was الانطوائي والاجتماعي, like introverts and extroverts. Because I considered myself to be an introvert, but then later on I moved to being an extrovert, and that kind of was interesting because I was having a conversation with a person who was an extrovert and then turned into an introvert. So I think a part of me really loved that episode because it really showed like two different sides of two different people who had like opposite experiences, and so I loved that.
Oh,
Wait,
wow.
so do you believe that you can transition from the two, from between an introvert and extrovert?
I don't know. The $1,000,000 question, do people actually change? I don't know.
Because like I've had a similar feeling. That's the reason of this now connected in my head.
What's your feeling side?
Well, usually I feel like, okay, so this one time a friend of mine told me that like we were just sitting down and talking one-on-one, and he told me, he's like, you're an introvert, my friend. And like me, I'm the type of person who's like, who talks to people, doesn't mind socializing. But he told me, he's like, you're an introvert. You're just like me, you're an introvert, but you're an outgoing introvert. So that kind of stuck in my head.
How does that work?
But
yeah,
you can
basically
be an ambivert, right?
an
Which is
ambivert.
like in between, yeah.
Okay, maybe that's what.
That's me,
what
yeah,
I am.
pretty much. Yeah, exactly, pretty much.
Because like usually I'm the type of person who enjoys being alone and stuff. But when I'm around people, like, okay, no, I can socialize, I can talk to people. I don't mind that thing. But there are certain situations where I'll be like, especially in like outside, like it's hard to approach new people. So it's very hard to be always an extrovert. And also obviously there's the stamina that basically I run out. I can't just keep talking to people. Eventually I just need a break, and he's like, okay, I need to go home, spend a week alone, not talk to anyone. Please go away, all of you.
I think people can change.
I agree.
I've seen it happen. That's why, because one of my really close friends in university did not leave his apartment. He just does not leave his apartment. He does not socialize. Even when we're on like Discord or anything like that, he does not talk. He's always on mute. He just listens, right? So I sat with him one-on-one. I was like, how long are you gonna stay like this? And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, how long are you planning on staying like this? Just in between four walls. He's like, why? There's nothing wrong with it. I was like, are you sure? And I told him, I'm definitely sure. He's like, prove it. So I take out my phone. I show him a picture of when he first arrived to Jordan. And then I grab his chair, because it's like my chair, it can move. I move him in front of a mirror, and I put the two pictures, like him and his picture next to him. I was like, do you believe me? He's like, you know what, you're right, but I don't know what to do. I was like, it's simple. All we got to do is go out. That's the first step. The rest will just happen.
So he was a closeted extrovert?
No, he was like super introverted. Like he was super introverted. He did
But could it be? Sorry, I think. Can you hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah.
Okay, I think I was on mute, but basically I was gonna say maybe like this is what I believe for at least from my personal opinion and like what I've gone through. But I think I've always been an extrovert, but social anxiety held me back. So maybe that's the case with your friend.
No, he didn't have social anxiety. He even when we went out, like he was okay with just chilling and being there, right? It's just he didn't talk a lot at first. And then slowly but surely he learned, just how to speak to new people every single day, right? Mm-hmm. And now he's like going out every single day, and he's an extrovert. He doesn't know how to stay at home. So people can, right?
Well, yeah.
It's hard. That's the thing. It's very hard for them.
I think that people also put themselves in a box especially because we're all very young and like we have so much learning ahead of us. I think I might lean more introverted, but I just throughout the years learned so much about social skills and how to approach and talk to people. I can go up and talk to anyone. I'm no longer scared because I've learned how to do it. I do think people can change. Yeah.
Share your secrets, Ali.
Where'd you learn?
Well,
Tell
my
us
secrets. I don't know.
Put
What?
you on the spot.
This is where you learn.
Put me on the spot.
Listen, I used to be the same. Okay, I was
Reflection.
social with my friends, but if I don't know you, I'm not talking to you. But talking to new people every
Right.
single day, come on, that must have changed something in you.
Yeah, this podcast taught me exactly like, oh, like like people are generally the same wherever you are in the world. People are generally like they're curious and they're nice and they're friendly. Most people, and you can go up and talk to someone and they're willing to talk to you, you know, because they're interested. They're like, oh, this is someone new. I'll talk to them for a bit, you know, enjoy this time we have together. And exactly, so that's why I feel like I'm very good now with approaching just random people on the street or wherever I am, and just
Let's not make it a habit though. We don't want you.
I like it. It's kind of funny to me.
Yeah, no, see, you're in LA. I'm in Kuwait. I can do it, and it's
that
fun,
is true.
You know what I mean? You're in LA. Like shit goes
Yes.
down in LA. Stuff really goes down in LA. You know what I mean? But
you know what's interesting? And so you say in Kuwait you can just randomly talk to strangers and you're good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Because I feel like in Saudi we're still getting used to that. Like a few months ago, I asked people on Instagram, like, do you randomly talk to strangers in public when you're in a cafe alone or something, or in a restaurant or just any like store or whatever? And a lot of people said they don't do it basically, and they don't like going out alone.
Here, it's starting to go down that road. It's starting to. I've noticed it more. Like I remember before, it was everyone would talk to anyone and everything is fine. You know what I mean? Like it used to be easier to ask a person directions than it is now. But I don't know why.
You know why I think it is? I'll tell you why. I think it's this thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna do it.
Yeah. Both of us, right? Because it's much easier to stay in your comfort zone and just look at a phone. Like I go on a bus ride or something, and everyone on the bus has like a phone on them. You know, imagine the time where that wasn't the case.
But
pretty much.
But here's the thing.
You had to talk
There's
to
this
people.
picture that I once saw that compared people when like before smartphones, where obviously now people are distracted with their smartphones, but in previous years people would have like a book or a newspaper as an excuse not to talk to people. So there was always a way, I guess, but now it's getting even harder, I guess.
Yeah, you know what? That's very true. I've never thought of that. That's well done.
You don't have a newspaper in your pocket everywhere you go.
No,
you're in a
but
restaurant, you don't pull out a newspaper.
It's easy to carry
But
a book
people used to do that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Pocketbooks were there for a reason.
I've seen that image that you mentioned, Basma, and I kind of agree with it, but like, I don't think everyone read a newspaper. Okay, obviously, reading newspapers was way more like
common.
Yeah, it was more common before, but I don't think it was always an excuse, because I'm trying to find an example where it doesn't apply. I'm trying to counter your argument.
Right.
Basically.
The phone demands your attention. Is the difference. The newspaper doesn't demand your attention. That's the difference. The phone gives you a dopamine boost every time you pull up your phone. You're like, oh, a new like on Instagram or a new thing I gotta see or whatever. The newspaper.
Yeah, and only exactly visually,
it's not gonna change.
It attracts your eye.
It's really not gonna change. Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
But
and it's more accessible.
End of the day, people are people. And the end of the day, it's like it's fine if you wanna. It's like whenever I'm in a cab, I find that like the driver understands when I'm in the mood to talk and when I'm not in the mood to talk. It's like very much based on body language, right? We all subconsciously understand body language, so we know if a person is welcoming a conversation or not. So there are many times where I did not welcome a conversation and I wasn't using my phone in the cab. The cab driver just didn't talk to me. Why? He kind of understood in a like pseudo-scientific way, we can call it, that, hey, Ali's not in the mood to talk. But most of the time I am in the mood to talk, and we do have these awesome conversations. So I don't think we really need a phone or a newspaper or even a book to block off any unwanted conversation. We just need to learn human beings.
Wait, question, Ali. The cabs that you use because here in Lebanon it's a bit different. The cabs you're saying is a taxi, right?
Like Uber and Kareem.
Okay, yeah.
All those stuff.
So yeah, I feel like usually these are the ones that don't really talk that much. I mean, it really depends. Like, but for us, for example, we have taxis, and then we have something called a service. Service is just like you just stand on the road, and then he picks you up, but you're not the only passenger. So it's like a mini bus or something.
A carpool.
Yeah, it's a carpool, exactly. Exactly, carpool taxi. So those are the ones that talk a lot. They basically talk your socks off and just like tell you about everything. You'll hear the weirdest stories and the weirdest conversations. You even if you don't want the conversation, you can literally tell them, it's like, I don't want. Or, no, actually, no one actually feels like, no one gets the urge, like the confidence to tell them, like, please stop
Stop
talking.
talking to me.
Yeah, especially if it's an old guy telling you about his kids and ma ba'arif shu. So it's really hard. So you're always exposed to this kind of conversation. So. Okay, so maybe the argument that people don't want to talk nowadays isn't. Maybe there's just more introverts nowadays. Maybe that's about it. You know, it's like maybe there's just more introverts because okay, yeah, to social media and technology and stuff. So it's just easier to become an introvert than, you know, putting in more energy to be an extrovert. And I think this also affects us in a way where we don't accept or like we don't admire things around us as much. So something that I like to do a lot is I hate using my phone. I hate texting. I really despise texting. If like the closest people around me, I text them maybe once a week, and I don't like it. It's really like actually the most people I text are you guys for the podcast and my girlfriend, and I'm getting sick and tired of that, to be honest. Too much. I keep telling you I can't do this.
Telling you I can't do this.
I can't do it. Texting is terrible, man. So like every time the phone's around me or I'm outside, I just drop my phone. Even if it's with me, I don't use it. But everyone else would be using it. I'm just like looking at them like.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, part of the problem I think now of approaching new people is, well, COVID, right? We've had this year where you're not supposed to approach anybody or talk to anybody. Pretty much, you're supposed to say to yourself. So maybe, I don't know, Basma, do you think COVID's had an effect on people if they're introverted or extroverted or their thoughts?
I don't know. I think people who want to socialize can find ways. I mean, like, I know for a fact, I don't know if it was like big for you guys, but in Saudi, Clubhouse a few weeks ago was huge. And so everybody was talking to each other, like talking to strangers. And yes, obviously it's not the same as socializing.
Guilty. I've been on Clubhouse for the past few days and I keep sleeping at 5 a.m. because I listen to the weird and the most like
I know
funny conversations you can possibly have on Clubhouse, and it's just so. I love Clubhouse. It's bad and it's good. I don't know how to explain it to you, but it's.
I kind of the first week I got into it, I literally spent. So I got like I finally got access to my account on Tuesday. Like I finally got an invitation. Yes, so I got my invitation on Tuesday night, and then from Tuesday to Saturday I spent like 16 hours on the app. And not just like some people use the app as like a podcasting platform where they basically just listen to people's conversations. No, I was actively like in conversations with people.
Amazing.
It was exhausting and fun. Like,
let's start a conversation. I want to start a conversation where we have a lot of people and just talk about random stuff. I've never joined the
Clubhouse.
Yeah, I just listen. I'd like literally put in
no. How are you a podcaster?
Listen, I talk to people an hour. I don't know. Right? I barely get to listen to other people's conversations. So I was like, you know what? Why should I? I already do this on the side. Let me listen to what other people talking to each other. Look, just as I said that, I got a notification from Clubhouse. Crazy.
Oh my God, close notifications. It's addicting. Don't.
I can't. I love it. I love being addicted.
So can you guys explain what Clubhouse is a bit?
Go ahead. Like, you know what?
Because like I heard about it in the...
Should I explain?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's basically just an audio conversation kind of app where basically you get into rooms with just either like some rooms are private, some are like community based, where if someone follows you or like someone who's in the room with you follows like their followers kind of get to know about the room and they kind of join. And then like there are public rooms where people just join and just randomly have conversations. Obviously there are people who just can be listeners, but you also can join the conversation. For Saudi, it just randomly just went like huge all of a sudden, just like 1 week, especially because like a lot of big influencers were joining. And because it was just like this new platform, you could easily just get a follow from like your favorite influencer. So it was like a big deal at the time. And then there were also like a lot of investors who kind of decided this was the best way to kind of find future investment opportunities. That's kind of how it started blowing up. And then all of a sudden, it was just like random people getting into conversations. That's like my favorite part. I like smaller rooms where people just kind of join and kind of have a conversation, where it's not so serious, not like I said, even with the same as my podcast, I don't like enjoy listening to people's advice who are like so much older and stuff like that as much as I enjoy listening to people who are closer to my age. So that's what like my aim was with the podcast, with Clubhouse. I mean,
I'm in it for the games. I'll be
because
honest.
I heard about it here in Lebanon. Yeah, I heard about it here in Lebanon, but mainly for like political reasons. So basically, what people would do is just like join into discussions where like some member of parliament or politician is talking, and then they just like ask him questions about why are you like, what happened to this file of corruption and what did you do here and blah blah blah. It's like trying to expose them on their conversations. That's the only thing I heard
we
about.
had political like people open rooms and talk to people, whereas we did have that, whereas usually you'd only hear their questions asked by news sources on the news.
Right.
Dude, I was in a room sharing a conversation with like someone extremely famous in Kuwait, Dawood Hussein, if you know him, Basma. He's an actor.
his name is familiar. I'm not sure I know who that is.
He's an actor. I'm sure if you've seen him, you'll know who he is. But like in Kuwait, he's super famous. And I was in there.
I'm not into like Kuwaiti actors.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh,
It's okay. But it was an amazing feat for me, and it was awesome. But they do have a lot of games on that like platform. Did you play any of the games?
No, I've heard of them, but I haven't played any.
No way.
wait, what are the games?
It's like you're in a conversation. Okay, so it's the moderator asks a question, right? He goes, you're in a car heading to a store. What do you buy? That's first letter S. Like the first letter of whatever you buy has to be S. All right, go. And everyone has to say something that starts with an S until there isn't anything. And the last person basically gets put as a listener instead of a speaker. And it keeps going until, final two are left, and it's just such a fun thing to play, honestly.
Bro, are you guys getting checks? Are you guys getting checks from Clubhouse? Because like you guys are sponsoring them very well.
Exactly. Perfect.
Damn.
We are not sponsored by Clubhouse.
We're not sponsored. We can if you want to
Clubhouse,
sponsor us. Yeah, exactly. Pretty much follow us.
Please sponsor.
Please sponsor us.
No.
Basma, I wanted to comment on something you said earlier. You said that I like talking to people my age because it's more relatable. Personally, for our podcast, I like finding people that aren't relatable to us, like people who are very far away or people who are much older. I'm trying to find someone who's much younger, pretty much, to be on the show also, just to get like a diversity of opinions. Do you think you like getting like that diversity, or do you think it's like better to associate with people that are closer to your thoughts?
I mean, closer to my thoughts kind of sounds like I'm looking for people who would just support my opinion, I guess.
Right.
But that's not the case. I think one thing I always try to keep in mind, I don't want, for example, if I bring like this big name or like someone who is specialized in this certain thing, I'm afraid it could kind of ruin the quality of other episodes where we're just talking subjectively. I hope that makes sense. But that's basically like
overshadows basically.
Yes.
Important episodes.
Yes. Yeah.
But did you never think of having like someone that's completely opposite to your way of thought and your way of like views in life? Because I promise you, it's such an amazing experience when it's your thoughts and views versus theirs, and you find a way to find that middle ground. Like, it's such a good experience. You should try it out sometime.
I agree. I obviously I've had it with regular conversations, but I don't think I've ever like had a guest who kind of was drastically different from how I thought. That's interesting. Maybe I should do that.
Definitely, I'd love to watch that episode because it's gonna be one of the best. Mark my words.
But the compromise part is hard to get. It's hard to reach, especially if you guys are completely like from a different mindset. So agreeing on something is the first step that you guys have to reach. Yeah, so I feel like usually
talking about me, by the way, me and him can't have a conversation without slipping into a fight. Is crazy.
No, it's not a fight. It's a debate. It's a debate. But we always do agree on like at least one thing, and that's like the most important part.
That's
Yeah,
true.
it brings us
Yeah.
closer together. I think it does, because it's
Very
like it
true.
might be very like complete opposite of me, but at least we found this one thing that brings us, closer to each other, and it's great. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. But what isn't awesome is the fact that we have hit a timestamp, boys.
Oh no, I still want to ask Basma. I still want to know what's your like your future projects and stuff, right? Because you're doing more than just the podcast, from what I know.
Yeah, so I have like a business called Read for Less, where it's basically like an online used bookstore here in Saudi.
Nice.
We started, like me and my friend, we started this when we were literally in high school. So we had no business experience whatsoever.
Mhm.
So it's always been like interesting, especially because like I just graduated like from a marketing degree. So it was always interesting to kind of get to implement what I've learned in class. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. I just really hope, like with the podcast and whatever other content I decide to do in the future, I really want it to be like community based. Really want it to be like bring people together in some way or another. Still not sure how I can do that.
Amazing.
COVID does not help, but hopefully in the future.
Yes.
Is that why you talk to like a specific set of people, like to create this community of yours?
I think it was mostly just because I wanted like to get to know more people that were closer to my age, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, I do love the Read for Less, because I do think that reading is so huge, right? And like, do you read a lot? And how's reading helped you?
I mean, I feel like what is reading a lot? A lot of people. I mean, I feel like no, I've never done that.
Oh,
I
wow.
feel like I would say like I love reading, obviously, like it's a huge part of my life for different reasons, but it wasn't like a huge part of my life throughout all phases in my life. For example, like as a child, I used to read because obviously like my mom kind of forced me to, but it was fun. And then during like middle school, I kind of like middle school and later elementary school, I kind of stopped. And then all of a sudden, like in high school, I just got back to reading. And like I never stopped, but I am kind of like a slow reader because I do like to enjoy books. And I try not to focus on like how many people or like how much people read in like a year or like a month or whatever. I just like to take my time reading.
I see.
Yeah, everyone has his own pace, and I really hate it when people compare themselves to others, so because it demotivates them. I mean, that's a whole other topic that I can go into, and like
I think yes, the person. We still have a bit of time. I do think this is a huge topic, dude. I read a lot. I read like a book every other day. I read like a lot. I spend a lot of hours reading, and from my experience, I don't know. I want to ask you because you got a degree in marketing. You said so. I'm curious because I've read a lot about business and marketing. I feel like just reading books gives you so much like wisdom and knowledge, like people who've done things. I know from your experience, do you think like marketing school was like it gave you a big help, or do you think reading books is as great as going to school?
I mean, I feel like whether you go to school or whether you read books, if you don't implement what you learn, what's the point of it?
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, like I should be an advocate of getting like a degree in marketing because I've done that. But it seems like obviously there's not like one right path to doing it. And I do believe like business school in general is like one of the majors where you can obviously learn from getting a degree, but you can also do it from just working in that field. So I don't see it as like it's not like a doctor or like an architect or whatever. Like it's different, obviously.
Wow.
Well,
here you go. Pretty cool.
Any more questions, boys?
Good. Any more? Yeah. All right. So
yeah, a lot, but I don't wanna open another episode. So.
Yeah,
we're wrapping up on time here, Basma. Thank you so much for your time here. Honestly, yes.
If you enjoyed this episode half as much as we enjoyed filming it, please do like, subscribe, share. We will leave a link to Basma's socials. Since
you have Basma here for one time, we need to know, Basma, what's the best way to market a podcast from your point of view?
Depends on who you're targeting. I feel like Instagram has been a huge success for me because it's easy to kind of reach like my target segment. But also word of mouth is huge with podcasting. So
word of mouth? That's the first time I heard that.
It's basically what it like. It's exactly word of mouth. Like it's people talking about your podcast.
I know what word of mouth is. I'm just saying it's the first time I heard anyone say to market your podcast you need like.
Oh.
Because usually everyone's like, "Oh, just market Instagram something," but word of mouth. Interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very effective. I've seen it happen.
I mean, well, we gotta try that.
I'll explain it to you, Ali, if later.
Understand what it is. I understand what it is. We'll leave a link to Basma's socials in the description below. Her podcast, go check it out.
Amazing.
For less, you should check that out too. Basma, is there anything you'd like to shout out or let the world know?
I think you guys did a pretty good job. I'm just curious. I don't know if this could be a part of the episode, but I was very curious to how you guys found out about Kalam Fadi.
All right, I'll tell you. I found out about you. So this is how we're trying to get more. Like you said, we're trying to find like an audience for our podcasts, and I think the best way for us to do that is to learn through the podcast. So every month we're trying to have like a little bit of like a theme and try to have people who do a certain kind of job. So right now we're starting our first month with podcasters. So we're trying to find different podcasters to come on the show. So we had a bunch of podcasters on the show. And I love talking to podcasters because we are podcasters. We can relate pretty much. And so I searched out for every single podcaster and I listened to your podcast and I loved it. And I was like, well, let's reach out to Basma. She seems like she likes to talk to people. She like talk to us pretty much.
Then he sent your stuff to me and I was like, approve, basically.
Approve, like, pretty much.
And so basically, like in my podcast, I speak only Arabic. Like, what made you choose me? Like, what if I didn't speak English?
أنا بفهم عربي.
Well, if you asked to do it in Arabic, you would have done it. But someone will. I'm not.
In Arabic.
I'm not saying.
إنني أتكلم اللغة العربية.
We're being cringy, boys. We can speak it in Arabic. We've done it.
We have done episodes in Arabic.
Like fully.
An episode in Arabic. Yeah, exactly.
But
yes,
we
exactly.
mainly do it in English because international viewership.
International crowd. We do have people from around the world, like even more than just America and Arabia, Europe, Asia.
You want to gather yourself there, Ali? Right, cool.
I'm gonna sneeze.
It's okay. Well, back to my outro.
This is gonna blow.
Thanks for watching. Follow her. See you. Peace, love, happiness.
See you later. Peace. Woo.